Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another Shadowbringers special preview lore tour from exclusive footage recorded by yours truly at the London Media Tour in May of the year of our Lord, the big one, 2019. My name is Ethys, for those of you who don't know me, and I would like to thank you all for allowing me to be your guide. It goes without saying that what you're seeing here is footage still in development and subject to change, but you dummies knew that already, so let's get into it. Il Mheg. The first thing we might notice about the zone, beyond the fields of flowers and literal Disney castle, is the foreignness of all its place names. We see a combination of Germanic in Vorkdorf, Damroen, and Verbertenberg, allusions to local folklore figures like Father Collard and Saint Fathric, for which we have no context other than that they're evidently religious, and finally a bunch of Gaelic-sounding phrases like Tim Gieus and Thism Ran that are literally made up. They're from the Fey language composed by the dev team's lore masters Koji and Odasan for the local residents, and although it's clearly Gaelic-inspired, we do not yet have a primer for it, so we'll just have to return when we do. I first teleported into the settlement of Lida Loran, but let's just forgo that for a moment and address the elephant in the lake, Mythi Glorianda. Firstly, this structure is a kind of neo-Gothic cathedral, a religious icon. Its excess of stained glass seems telling, as does the massive wing-like glyphs projecting from its aft, similar but distinct both to the symbols found in the Church of Darkness in Lakeland and a ceremonial giant stirring rod used by alchemists in the Crystarium. These wings might seem reminiscent of Titania, but I suspect the opposite is true. It might serve as a palace now, but the building shares architectural features with many of the ruins throughout the parts of Novrant we have seen so far, and there is no evidence of battlements or any defensive structures having ever surrounded it, unlike all of the more mundane ruins we find in Lakeland. Mythi, at a glance, might seem like a Hindi word, meaning sweet. Seems strange to mix the Latin glorianda with Hindi, however. I think it's more likely that Mythi here is a derivative of Mithras or Mithra, a sun god of Iranian origins worshipped throughout the Roman Empire for several centuries. So, Mythi is a name. This ostensibly cathedral structure then would be literally named Glorianda, or for the glory of Mythi, not for the glory of Titania. Given the established saturation of worship in Novrant for the primordial forces of light and darkness, if Mythi is a name derived from Mithra, it is perhaps an old Novrantian name either for the sun or for Hydaelyn herself. We'll come back to this structure, but for now, let's bounce back to Lida Loran. As we know, Il Mheg is the primary domain of the Fae, a loose nation of folk made up, as we know so far, of the Pixies, the Fua, and the Nu Mo. The former apparently have a flower fixation, as we can see from local fate text and the behavior of the few NPCs we can find in this build. All else we can say about them comes from recent live letters, that they follow their primal regent Titania, have a great magical aptitude, and a penchant for mischief. Around Lida Loran in particular, we see many strange topiary figures, shrubs sculpted into figures in various poses and actions. Perhaps these are some kind of leaf golems ready to be animated in the defense of the Pixie settlement. Perhaps they're just a strange artistic expression. I like to think they're people that have been witlessly transformed by the Pixies in some cruel practical joke. All of the southwest of Il Mheg consists of rolling hills carpeted with bright flowers, patrolled by giant butterflies and the Pixies' golemic flower baskets, which evidently continuously pollinate them and, if needed, defend them. Amongst the vast flower beds, we can find a few isolated structures with a rounded wooden architecture consistent to Lida Loran. To the southeast, the tower of Fizor Loran, doors carved with a simulacrum of the wings of Mythi. Loran seems to be the Fey word for this type of structure, since a little to the north and east we can find the near-identical Thism Loran sitting at the bottom of Long Mirror Lake. Another, far north in the fields, has been named, or most likely renamed, the Bookman's Shelves. This seems to be the new Scion's headquarters, or at least a temporary squat for Urianger. Firstly, we see Urianger welcoming both us and Thancred here in the launch trailer. Secondly, a scroll of the elemental wheel, notated in Eorzean. Very conspicuous given that Novrant does not use the Eorzean alphabet. Finally, the Bookman's Shelves? Come on. It's the only one of the Fae-themed buildings we can enter in this build, and I have to say I feel immediately at home. I bet that you housing fanatics are losing your minds right now. Shortly north of here, the Valley of Good Janana's Grace, skirting the western edge of the lake, seems to represent the border of the Pixies' home as the flowers give way to Verbertenberg, a region of a more temperate green and scattered groves of pine trees, evocative of a pre-calamity Ethys. Caverns beneath the mountains to the north, dimly lit by luminescent fungi, wind towards a site I would sooner expect to discover in Morrowind. Pla Eni, a village of residences built into hollowed-out mushrooms, disquietingly empty in this preview build, but evidently the home of the Numo. We can find another cavern to the south, named Father Collard's Chambers, full of unfriendly Numo fungimancers and their porksy pets, which are no doubt going to be the new Gaelicat obsession. Through the rest of Verbertenberg, particularly around the Aetheryte at Volkdorf, we find ruins of an identical architecture to those most prevalent in Lakeland. Note that we are very far north of Laxenloft here. This old civilization covers more geography than any contemporary Eorzean or Othardian nation. Around these ruins are a number of very strange organic growths with crimson feather-like leafy protrusions. There are a few pockets of the pixie flowers around here too. I wonder if these are saplings of the strange pink blossom trees we see in the pixie lands to the south. Remarkably well-preserved ruins of both the Germanic Lakeland / Verbertenberg and the southern Il Mheg Fae style converge at the bottom of Long Mirror Lake through the center of the zone. Among these is yet another church of the Light and Darkness cult, the House of the First Light. It seems at one time these styles and their subsequent cultures coexisted and were contemporary to one another. The architecture of Mythi Glorianda seems in fact to be a confluence of their styles and represent a collaboration between cultures. It makes me think of the Viking settlements of coastal Ireland, if the Vikings were less rapey and plunderous. Rising above the lake to the east, a waterfall-carved plateau called St. Fathric's Temple, with a tiny ruined structure named Anden's Heirs. On the edge of Volkdorf, the ruins of the church at Damrowen Field, with a facade and rondel window frame identical to the Church of the First Light in Lakeland. More evidence of light worship in Il Mheg, consolidated by our interpretation of Mythi Glorianda earlier in the tour. Inside, the broken shell of what concerningly appears to be a dragon egg. The culprits lurk nearby. What is that? A lizard? No. It's a fucking dragon. Why is that a big deal? Well, from our knowledge of Heideland's history, there were two big things we had reason to suspect the first shard didn't have. Alligans and dragons. And now we've seen both. I spent the rest of my time in Il Mheg trying to take down local A-rank Oporus Poldia, a reskin of the final boss of Sculla. Probably, like him, a former human transformed into a monster, if the name is anything to go by. You can see how that went in my Advanced Dragoon preview. So that's more or less it for Il Mheg, until we can dig a little deeper post-launch. If you want to check out the attached MSQ dungeon Dawn Meg, introducing the third Fae race of the Fua, check out my tour of that on the channel. This place is foreign, and its language frustratingly impenetrable for now, but it is deeply beautiful and exemplifies the classical high fantasy focus for Shadowbringers world design. I dare say that's all the time we're going to have for Shadowbringers content previews, with early access right around the corner, but if you've missed any of the other zones or my lengthy stream highlight discussion of the launch trailer, you should check them out. Make sure that you're subscribed if you'd like to see more lore content, and slap the stupid bell if you'd actually like to be notified of new videos. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in Novrant.